much movement on the lawsuits against Illinois' gun and magazine ban in the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. It's just sitting there. We have yet to get a schedule on what kind of hearing there could be, let alone a briefing schedule. If you remember, back in January of 2023, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a bill that started as insurance legislation, and then it turned into a sweeping ban of more than 170 semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, and handguns, and magazines over certain capacities. Tons of lawsuits. The ones that really made it to where we're at now, down in the Southern District of Illinois. Consolidated cases. You had the case under the Barnett label, these 4 different cases brought together, and ultimately, after months and months and months of preliminary actions and it bouncing all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, it was bounced back. And then on the merits, the district judge, Stephen McGlynn, out of East St. Louis, said that the law was unconstitutional, but he put a hold on his order until the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals then essentially re-upped that order. So the law is still in effect while it's being challenged in court, and it's in the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals on the merits. Will that be heard? We shall see. But you also have the U.S. Supreme Court that put the Snopes case. This is a case challenging Maryland's gun ban. That's gone all the way through the judiciary, right? It's gone through the district court and through the appeals court. Now it's in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, and they were in conference with the Snopes case on Friday. The U.S. Supreme Court says that, let's see here, let's go ahead and pull it up. The order list should have come out as we're here live about 5 minutes ago. So we're going to see if we can find this really quick with the order list. So zoom in a little bit on this. Let's do a search for Snopes. I am not seeing it. All right, so apparently the Snopes case may not be... Trying to search Maryland. Yeah, not seeing it. I'm not seeing the Snopes case on the order list from today. Maybe some of you in the live chat, if you do see it, you can point it out to me. But yeah, I'm not seeing the Snopes case unless I'm spelling something wrong. But yeah, nothing. So we wait for the U.S. Supreme Court to decide on that. If they don't take the Snopes case, that may put more pressure on the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. And I'm not a lawyer, right? I'm just a neutral observer watching what happens as a reporter. But I've been tracking this case. So if they don't take the Snopes case, that could mean Illinois' case, which is both a gun and magazine ban challenge. It could make its way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, but will it be a 2025 case or could it be a 2026 case? Again, things that we're watching closely. So, not sure what's going to happen with the gun ban cases. Illinois' case still lingering in the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. Now, one of the news stories that prompted legislators at the Illinois State House to ban semi-automatic firearms was that horrific mass shooting in Highland Park during an Independence Day July 4th parade. Well, the suspect, the accused in that, Robert Cremo III, the trial starts today. They got jury selection underway. So that's something else that we're going to have to watch closely, because that was used as the impetus to ultimately bring about legislation banning the sale and possession of these semi-automatic firearms. But if you go even back into the history of that, and again, we watched that, we tracked this story from the days after it happened, with police coming out saying that the suspect they had in custody had a FOID card, a firearm owner identification card, despite having local police notify state police that this was a person who might be ineligible for a FOID card, right? So you had state police say all their policies didn't allow for it because the cases weren't still lingering. So they went ahead and dismissed this report from local police that should have prevented him from getting a FOID card, but he still got a FOID card anyways and was able to purchase the firearms allegedly used in the case. So the Cremo case is going to start with jury selection. There's going to be a lot of eyeballs on that up in the northern Illinois area. But you've got a ton of other cases that I want to update you guys on. The mass transit carry ban case, where you had a district court chastise prosecutors for saying that his decision to ultimately allow for 4 plaintiffs to have concealed carry on mass transit, saying that the law was unconstitutional in regards to these 4 individuals who sued. The attorneys came back and said, hey, the Schoenthal case, if the judge allows for people to carry on mass transit, you could see an increase of shootings. And then they pointed to another story that happened like 4 days after the fact, and it was a shooting where 2 people were shot and killed on a Chicago subway. The judge chastising those attorneys for that. But regardless, we do have that case now in the appeals court, and they have a briefing schedule. So they're going to be looking at March 14th. The Schoenthal plaintiffs, they're going to have to file their briefs in the appeals court, and then the state actors are going to have to file by April 4th. So we do have a timeline for the Schoenthal case when it comes to the issue of whether or not you can carry concealed on mass transit. Then you have another gun ban case. This is the Beavis versus Naperville case. This case has been going up and down the judiciary as well. And actually, the Beavis case preceded Illinois' gun ban, right? Because Naperville had the gun ban go into effect. Robert Beavis with Law Weapons, he sued back in November of 2022. And then he modified his case to wrap in the state's gun ban as well. Well, we have a district court schedule where disclosures, they were filed in December, but then you've got discovery that's going to be filed by April 30th this year. May 7th is going to be some status hearings that are going to be set. Then initial disclosures, May 16th. Rebuttals expected July 15th. And then August 1st through the 31st, depositions are going to happen. So that's a long runway all throughout this year for the Beavis case to actually be dealt with in the district courts. Again, he sued back in 2022. Look at your calendar. It's 2025. So courts take a long time with these things. The Veramontes case, another case challenging a gun ban out of Chicago. That case was argued in the appeals court. We're still waiting for the appeals courts to make a determination on that. So that was back in November 12th when they heard that case in the appeals court. Again, we are waiting to see what happens with the Veramontes case. We also had a district judge, state-level judge, a White County judge in Illinois, determined that the firearm owner ID card for firearms in the home was unconstitutional. And there's been a lot of talk about this case as well. The case against Vivian Brown, that as well has bounced up to the Illinois Supreme Court, down, and back up to the Illinois Supreme Court, and then down 2 times. So now it looks like the 3rd time the Illinois Supreme Court's going to get this case. Will they actually decide on the merits, or will they find some procedural issue? They're not sure. But one thing that did happen also while I was away from the live show, Karina's Law got signed. That's the bill that would ultimately say, and will, after 90 days of it being signed, require police to confiscate firearms from individuals who are subject to domestic orders of protection. Not convicted of domestic abuse, but domestic orders of protection. Here is some moments from the signing of that, where Governor J.B. Pritzker put ink to paper and put his signature on Karina's Law. And then you get State Representative Maura Hirschauer.
This policy sends a clear message to those living through trauma and the terror of domestic violence. Here in Illinois, we see you. You have the absolute right to leave your abuser, and we will do our best to keep you and your family safe. And most importantly, here in Illinois, we value your life and the life of your families more than we value your abuser's gun.
But a lot of the argument is that this is an issue about due process. This is an issue about the Second Amendment and how some of these laws try to curtail those rights. I chatted with Illinois State Rifle Association's Ed Sullivan briefly the day Karina's law was signed, and he continued to share his ongoing concerns about the law.
It was telling in the floor speech that Representative Hirschauer said that we get a finding of fact without a hearing, and then they get a hearing 2 weeks later. So she directly went against what Rahimi said, and so I think that's going to be a problem should someone move forward with a lawsuit. And so that was really our concerns is due process. How can you take away someone's firearm without giving them a court case? And so here we are. That's what they're trying to do.
So Sullivan reiterating the concerns he's shared about this law since its inception. But a domestic violence awareness group, a group who fights for victims of domestic violence, they were at the bill signing ceremony spelling out what they believe were some concessions made to gun rights supporters about who should be able to possess these firearms that are confiscated from somebody who's the subject of a domestic order of protection.
We did include a provision in the final language that allows for third-party transfer petition process, so that once the firearms are relinquished to law enforcement in that immediate kind of urgent time frame, there's a process for those firearms to not stay with law enforcement, but to go to someone else who the judge has decided is okay to have possession of those firearms.
So was that enough of a concession? Again, Sullivan talking about just the overall problems they have with this legislation, and now it's law. After the governor signed it a couple of weeks ago, 90 days, it goes into effect.
Our problem that we have, that once again I think was easily fixed, is how do you get your firearms back when an order is dismissed? And so if an order expires or an order is dismissed, so let's say the same person goes back and the judge says, yes, more information because you didn't have due process, and now I'm dismissing this order. The person, the respondent, has to file to get their firearms back. But you can't get your firearms back until you get your FOID card back. And so there's no easy mechanism to get your FOID card back. And everybody that has tried to go through this for just simple issues, it could take months to a year to get your FOID card back.
It's pretty remarkable to think about, too, right? I mean, the idea of a FOID card still being challenged in the courts, as we talked about with Vivian Brown's case. Gun Save Life have a case pending in a state appellate court. The U.S. Supreme Court did turn around a case challenging, I believe it was Maryland's, gun ID law. So that's not necessarily something that's going to be tackled by the U.S. Supreme Court unless maybe an Illinois case gets up there, right? So still a lot of moving pieces when it comes to gun control laws in the state of Illinois. Tomorrow, we'll talk about the first hearing of the new Illinois House Gun Violence Prevention Committee. Right? They have an actual committee they created about gun violence prevention, and they took up a couple of bills for subject matter. So we'll hear a little bit about that tomorrow. One deals with an e-trace program for firearms. Another one deals with making sure that those who have stalking convictions in their past aren't able to get a firearm owner ID card. There's other bills in there about FOID owners' fees and peace officer training and safe gun storage. We've heard about that one, and pediatricians wanting to get involved in whether or not kids are told about safe gun storage in their homes. I mean, there's a lot going on that this gun violence prevention task or House committee in the Illinois House can tackle. But Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, whenever the bill for Karina's law was signed, she talked about the Trump administration and how she believes Illinois is going to stand up against the Trump administration when it comes to firearms laws.
Over the last few days, the White House has begun the process of rolling back common sense gun safety policies that so many survivors and advocates fought for years to enact. And Donald Trump did this knowing that it would put more lives at risk. The Trump administration has made their disdain for the victims and survivors of gun violence clear. Our administration is making our dedication to Illinois' victims and survivors unmistakable. Every Illinoisan, every American deserves to be safe. And today, we reaffirm that we stand with survivors and advocates who will continue this work, and we will keep doing everything in our power to protect the people of Illinois, because we are not going back.
So,
not on our watch.
That's Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton talking about how she sees the Trump administration's handling of the Second Amendment and guns being problematic for Illinois. Wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily, and we'll keep you updated on that and so much more. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, join the live show, live to tape each and every weekday morning. Get the podcast where you get podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter at thecentersquare.com.